There is a brutal, undeniable reality about the WNBA media establishment that they desperately try to hide from every single person watching this league. Chiney and Sydney Colson just sat on an ESPN panel and attempted to gaslight an entire fan base into believing that Caitlin Clark embellishes contact. Let me say that again so it sinks in. Two former players, on national television with cameras rolling and millions watching, looked directly into the lens and told you that the league's biggest star fakes getting hit, and they did it while defending Alyssa Thomas, while downplaying an incident that resulted in a suspension, while pretending that a freeze frame manufactured a controversy that we all watched unfold in real time. This is not a difference of opinion. This is not a hot take. This is coordinated damage control, and it is falling apart in front of our eyes. Welcome back. This is Baskley, and today we are ripping the doors off the most disgraceful media performance of the WNBA season and exposing the double standard in officiating that has turned this league into an absolute circus. Before I walk you through exactly how Chiney chose to torch her own credibility on live television, I need you to understand the stakes here. Caitlin Clark has spent an entire rookie season absorbing physical abuse that would have ended careers in previous eras, flagrant fouls that went uncalled, elbows to the face that the officials pretended not to see. A pattern of targeting so obvious that even casual fans started asking questions. And the moment the league was finally forced to issue a suspension for one of those incidents, the moment accountability actually arrived, the establishment sent two of its most visible former players onto ESPN to tell you it was all fake, that the controversy was manufactured, that if you slow down the footage and squint hard enough, maybe it wasn't that bad. This is the conversation they do not want you to have, because the second you start asking why Caitlin Clark is the only player in this league who has to prove she got hit, the entire narrative collapses. Let me take you back to what actually happened on that ESPN panel, because every single word matters. Chiney opened by talking about officiating as a universal issue this season. Fine, that part is true. The WNBA is seeing the highest scoring season in league history largely because referees are calling more fouls. Games that used to run 2 hours are now pushing 2.5 hours. There is a legitimate conversation to be had about consistency, about whether the officials have control of the game, about whether one matchup is called like a playoff war and another is called like an all-star exhibition. Chiney laid all of that groundwork, and it sounded reasonable. It sounded like analysis, and then she pivoted. She called the Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark matchup a magnifier matchup. She said Alyssa plays on the edge, and then she said the words that should disqualify her from ever covering this league again. She said Caitlin Clark sometimes embellishes at times in certain instances. Embellishes. That was the word she chose, on national television, with her name attached. Embellishes, as if Caitlin Clark is out there flopping like a soccer player. As if the contact is imaginary. As if we did not all watch Alyssa Thomas throw a forearm into Caitlin Clark's throat during a live game that millions of people were streaming in real time. Chiney looked into that camera and told you that what you saw with your own eyes might not be real, that maybe Caitlin was selling it, that maybe the narrative got out of control because of a freeze frame, not because of the actual violence, not because of the actual fist to the throat, but because of the optics, because of the image, because the league was forced to react to public pressure instead of handling it internally like they always do. And then Sydney Colson co-signed it. Sydney Colson, who just got hired by ESPN, sat there and nodded along while Chiney spun this revisionist fantasy. Sydney said that if you are watching the game in real time, you did not really notice too much because people hit the ground all the time. Let me repeat that. People hit the ground all the time. So because physical abuse is common in the WNBA, we are supposed to ignore it when it crosses the line into assault. We are supposed to shrug and say, well, that is just how the game is played. Sydney Colson actually said that narratives are created based off of a freeze frame, as if the entire controversy was invented by a screenshot, as if thousands of people were not watching the game live, as if the referees did not miss the call in real time, forcing the league to issue a retroactive suspension because the evidence was so damning they could not ignore it. This is gaslighting. This is not analysis. This is not a difference of interpretation. This is two people with a platform using that platform to rewrite history while it is still fresh. And the reason they are doing it is because the alternative is too dangerous for the establishment. The alternative is admitting that Caitlin Clark has been targeted all season, that the referees have failed her repeatedly, that the physicality she absorbs would result in ejections if it happened to any other star in this league, that the old guard is terrified of what she represents, that the media machine built to protect the WNBA's image cannot afford to let the truth become the dominant narrative. Let me walk you through the Alyssa Thomas incident one more time, because Chiney Ogwumike and Sydney Colson are counting on you forgetting the details. During a game between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas got tangled up during a play. Alyssa Thomas threw a forearm. The contact was direct. The contact was to Caitlin Clark's throat. Caitlin hit the ground, and she got up. She got up and kept playing. And that is the part that Chiney and Sydney are now using against her. They are saying that because Caitlin did not stay down, because she did not make a scene, because she handled it like a professional and kept competing, the incident must not have been that serious. This is the definition of a rigged game. If Caitlin stays down, they call her soft. They say she is playing for the whistle. They say she cannot handle the physicality of the professional game. But if she gets up and keeps playing, they say, well, it could not have been that bad because look, she is fine, she kept going. Both players are known to make their issues known, Sydney said. So because Caitlin did not throw a tantrum, the assault does not count. This is insane. This is an impossible standard, and it is a standard that is only applied to one player. You want to know how I know that? Because we have the receipts, we have the footage. We have the pattern playing out in real time, and the WNBA referees are refusing to enforce their own rules when it benefits Caitlin Clark and enforcing them with surgical precision when it protects everyone else. Paige Bueckers, during a game this season, clapped in an opponent's face, not once, multiple times. She clapped, she gestured, she taunted, and the referees did nothing. No technical foul, no warning. The ref shook her head and walked away. Paige Bueckers is one of the most hyped prospects in women's basketball. She is a future franchise player, she is beloved by the media. And she clapped in someone's face on national television, and the officials pretended it did not happen. Now imagine if Caitlin Clark did that. Imagine if Caitlin Clark walked up to an opponent after a bucket and clapped in her face 3 times in a row. Every single talk show would dedicate a segment to it. Every single former player would go on Twitter and call her classless. They would say she is bad for the game. They would say she does not respect the league. They would say she is everything that is wrong with the new generation. But Paige Bueckers does it and the referees look the other way. And it gets worse. Kaylin McBride, playing for the Minnesota Lynx last season, walked directly toward Paige Bueckers during a game and clapped in her face. She did not get a technical foul either. She walked up, she clapped, she taunted, and nothing happened. No whistle, no ejection, no retroactive review. The officials saw it, the cameras caught it, and the league did nothing. So let me ask you a very simple question. If clapping in someone's face is not a technical foul when Paige Bueckers does it, and it is not a technical foul when Kaylin McBride does it, why is every single gesture that Caitlin Clark makes treated like a federal offense? Why does Caitlin get called for taunting when she celebrates a three-pointer? Why does Caitlin get a technical for showing emotion after a bad call? Why is the standard different? Because the referees are not calling the game. They are managing a narrative. And the narrative they have been told to manage is that Caitlin Clark is not special, that she does not deserve protection, that the physicality she faces is just part of the game, and if she cannot handle it, maybe she does not belong. The officials are not incompetent. They are not missing these calls by accident. They are making a choice. Every single time they swallow the whistle when Caitlin gets hit, they are making a choice. Every single time they call a ticky-tack foul on her and let her opponents maul her without consequence, they are making a choice. And Chiney Ogwumike and Sydney Colson just went on ESPN and told you that choice is justified because Caitlin embellishes. Let me be entirely clear with you right now. If Caitlin Clark did what Paige Bueckers did, if she clapped in someone's face the way Kaylin McBride did, it would be the lead story on every WNBA show for a week. They would call her a diva. They would say she has an attitude problem. They would say she is disrespecting the veterans. They would say she thinks she is bigger than the league. And the referees would give her a technical foul without hesitation because the rules apply to Caitlin Clark in a way they do not apply to anyone else. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not speculation. This is documented. This is on camera. This is happening in front of millions of people, and the establishment is so confident that you will not notice that they sent Chiney Ogwumike and Sydney Colson onto ESPN to defend it. Chiney said the league was forced to be reactive. She said the league rarely does what it did by instituting a suspension on a non-call. She said it was unique, and she is right, it was unique. You want to know why it was unique? Because the league got caught. Because the incident was so blatant, so violent, so impossible to ignore that even the WNBA's PR machine could not spin it. The freeze frame that Chiney is so desperate to dismiss was not the problem. The freeze frame was the evidence. It was the proof that what everyone saw in real time actually happened. And the league could not bury it, so they issued a suspension and hoped everyone would move on. But instead of moving on, Chiney Ogwumike decided to go on television and imply that the whole thing was blown out of proportion. That the optics created the problem, not the assault. That if we had all just looked away, the league could have handled it quietly the way they always do. This is what the establishment does when it feels threatened. It does not admit fault. It does not apologize. It does not change. It sends its most credible voices out to muddy the water, to make you second-guess what you saw, to make you feel like maybe you are overreacting, to make you feel like the real problem is not the violence, it is the fact that people are talking about the violence. Chiney Ogwumike has a platform. She has credibility, she has a voice that people trust. And she just used that voice to tell you that Caitlin Clark, the most scrutinized player in the history of women's basketball, is faking it. That the hits she takes are not as bad as they look. That maybe, just maybe, she is playing for the whistle. And Sydney Colson sat there and nodded along because that is what you do when you want to stay in the good graces of the people who run this league. But here is the problem. The people watching are not stupid. The people watching have eyes. The people watching have been documenting this double standard all season, and they are not buying the spin anymore. Every time Caitlin Clark gets hit and the referees do nothing, the clips go viral. Every time another player gets away with taunting while Caitlin gets called for breathing too hard, the outrage grows. Every time someone like Chiney Ogwumike goes on television and tries to gaslight the fanbase, it backfires. Because the truth is too obvious, the pattern is too clean, the bias is too blatant. Caitlin Clark is being targeted. By the officials, by the old guard, by the media establishment that cannot stand the fact that a rookie is bigger than the league. And instead of protecting her, instead of celebrating her, instead of recognizing that she is the reason millions of new fans are watching, the WNBA is letting her get brutalized and then sending people like Chiney Ogwumike onto ESPN to tell you it is her fault, that she embellishes, that she is soft, that the narrative got out of control because of a freeze frame, not because of a fist to the throat. Let me tell you what is really happening here. The WNBA is terrified. They are terrified that Caitlin Clark is exposing how broken their officiating is. They are terrified that the double standard is becoming impossible to deny. They are terrified that if they admit the refs have been letting her get mauled all season, they will have to answer for why. They will have to explain why the biggest star in the league, the player who is selling out arenas and crashing streaming servers, is being treated like a target instead of a treasure. So instead of admitting the problem, they are attacking the messenger. They are attacking the fans who are calling it out. They are attacking Caitlin herself by implying she is exaggerating the contact. And the reason this matters, the reason I am putting my name on this and spending 17 minutes walking you through every detail, is because this is not just about Caitlin Clark. This is about what the WNBA is willing to tolerate. This is about whether the league is going to protect its stars or sacrifice them to keep the old guard happy. This is about whether the referees are going to enforce the rules or enforce a narrative. This is about whether the media is going to tell the truth or spin for the establishment. And right now, the establishment is losing. Because no matter how many times Chiney Ogwumike says the word embellish, no matter how many times Sydney Colson says people hit the ground all the time, no matter how many times the league tries to rewrite history, the footage does not lie. The pattern does not lie. The double standard does not lie. Paige Bueckers clapped in someone's face, no technical. Kaylin McBride walked up to an opponent and clapped, no technical. Alyssa Thomas threw a forearm into Caitlin Clark's throat, suspension only after public outrage. Caitlin Clark celebrates a three-pointer, technical foul. Caitlin Clark reacts to a bad call, technical foul. Caitlin Clark exists on a basketball court. Somehow that is a problem. And when people point it out, when people document it, when people demand accountability, Chiney Ogwumike goes on ESPN and says, well, maybe Caitlin is faking it. Maybe the narrative got out of control. Maybe we should all just calm down and let the league handle it quietly, the way they always do. No, we are not doing that. We are not letting this die. We are not pretending the double standard does not exist. We are not accepting the gaslighting. Caitlin Clark is the best thing that has ever happened to the WNBA, and the league is treating her like a problem. The referees are letting her get hit, and the media is blaming her for it. And every single person watching this video knows exactly what is happening, because you have been watching it happen all season. I am going to put my name on this. If the WNBA does not address the officiating double standard before the playoffs, if Caitlin Clark continues to absorb uncalled contact while other players get away with taunting and physicality, if the referees keep swallowing the whistle when she gets hit and calling phantom fouls when she breathes on someone, come back here and tell me I was wrong. But I am not wrong. The pattern is too clean, the evidence is too overwhelming, the bias is too obvious. Chiney Ogwumike can go on ESPN and say embellish as many times as she wants. Sydney Colson can pretend that freeze frames create narratives. The league can keep pretending that everything is fine. But the people watching know better. The people watching have the receipts. And the people watching are not going to let the establishment rewrite history while it is still happening. Caitlin Clark got hit. She got up, she kept playing, and now the league and its media allies are using her professionalism against her. They are saying that because she did not make a scene, the assault does not count. They are saying that because she handled it like a champion, maybe it was not that bad. They are saying that the real problem is not the violence, it is the fact that people notice the violence. And that tells you everything you need to know about what the WNBA has become. A league that protects its old guard at the expense of its future. A league that lets its refs enforce narratives instead of rules. A league that sends former players onto television to gaslight the fans who are keeping it alive. But here is the thing. The fans are not buying it anymore. The clips are going viral. The outrage is growing. The double standard is becoming impossible to ignore. And no amount of spin from Chiney or Sydney Colson or anyone else is going to change that. Caitlin Clark is being targeted, the referees are complicit, the media is covering for them, and the people watching are done pretending otherwise. Drop your most honest take in the comments below. Is the WNBA officiating deliberately protecting the old guard at Caitlin Clark's expense, or is this just incompetence that happens to break the same direction every single time? I want every opinion that is willing to commit to one side. No hedging, no both sides. Pick one and defend it. Because this is not a gray area anymore. This is black and white. This is documented. This is happening in front of our eyes. And the establishment is so desperate to make you doubt what you are seeing that they sent two of their most visible former players onto ESPN to tell you it is all fake. Hit the notification bell because the physicality is escalating, the double standard is getting worse, and the WNBA is about to find out what happens when you gaslight an entire fan base that has the receipts. We will see you in the next video.